All right, let's talk about something that gets all of us every time we're at the grocery store. Organic food. Is it really worth the extra cash? You see the labels, you hear the buzz, but what's the real story? Well, today, we're going to cut right through all that confusion and look at what the science actually says. Let's dive in. So let's just start with a kind of shocking question. Are there nerve agents in your salad? And look, I know that sounds like crazy talk, but some of the most common pesticides used in farming, these things called organophosphates, they're designed to attack an insect's nervous system. And they actually come from the very same chemical family as nerve agents. So, how worried should we actually be about this? Okay, section 1. What does organic even mean? Before we can answer that question, we have to get on the same page about the definition. And it's probably not what you think. It's less about some special ingredient being added and way more about what's been left out. At its core, organic farming really comes down to 3 main rules. Think of them as the 3 big no's. Number 1, no synthetic pesticides to kill bugs or herbicides to kill weeds. Number 2, no artificial fertilizers pumped into the soil to make plants grow faster. And number 3, for things like meat and dairy, no routine use of antibiotics. That's pretty much the whole game right there. Section 2. Pesticides, a cause for concern? So this leads us right to the question on everyone's mind. Are the chemicals they use on non-organic food actually bad for us? I mean, really? Let's unpack what the evidence tells us. So the first thing you've got to know is that these chemicals aren't just sitting on the surface of our food. They're actually getting inside our bodies. Yeah. Studies have found detectable levels of pesticides in the blood and urine of over 90% of people. And we're not talking about farm workers here. This is from the food we eat every single day. Okay, so we've got this stuff in us. Does it actually matter? Honestly, it's a super tricky thing to study because, people who eat organic might also exercise more or smoke less. But we do have some clues from these huge observational studies. One in Belgium linked non-organic diets to weight gain. A massive one in the UK found an increased risk for a specific blood cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But the one everyone talks about is this major study that came out of France. So that French study, the Nutrinet Santé one, it followed almost 60,000 people. And what they found was wild. The folks who ate organic food most of the time had a 25% lower overall risk of getting cancer. 25%. That's a huge number. And what's really fascinating is that the main cancer that saw a drop was the exact same one from the UK study, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But okay, let's pump the brakes for a second. Let's get some ballots here. As the scientist Tim Spector says, this link is far from proven. There are just way too many other factors in people's lives to say for sure that the organic food is the cause. The key takeaway, though, is that while it's not a slam dunk, the fact that these findings keep popping up gives researchers, in their words, cause for concern. All right, section 3, the hidden benefit of organic. So we've been talking a lot about avoiding potentially bad stuff, right? Reducing our exposure to chemicals. But what if we've been looking at this whole thing backwards? What if the real benefit of organic isn't about what it has less of, but what it has more of? I mean, really think about that question. It totally reframes the entire debate. We've been so focused on the absence of pesticides, but maybe the true power of going organic is in the presence of something else entirely. And it turns out there is. On average, organic fruits and vegetables have 30 to 40% more polyphenols. Polyphenols, what are those? Well, they're basically the plant's natural defense system. They're these amazing compounds plants make to protect themselves from bugs and other stressors. And for us, they're like rocket fuel for our healthy gut microbes, and they act as powerful antioxidants. A 40% jump is a massive nutritional bonus. So why does that happen? Well, think about it this way. A conventional plant is kind of like a couch potato. It gets everything handed to it on a silver platter. Artificial fertilizers are its food delivery, pesticides are its personal bodyguards. It has a super easy, cushy life. But an organic plant, that plant is an athlete. It has to actually fight off bugs on its own. It has to work hard to find nutrients in the soil. All that stress forces it to bulk up and produce more of its own defense chemicals, those amazing polyphenols. Its tougher life literally makes it stronger and better for us. Section 4, putting it all together. Okay, so now we have the two sides of the organic coin. On one side, you have the potential risk of long-term pesticide exposure. And on the other, you have the proven reward of getting way more of these beneficial polyphenols. So how are we supposed to think about this risk and reward when we're standing there in the grocery aisle? I think this quote is just a perfect piece of practical advice. The key isn't to freak out about the handful of non-organic strawberries you eat once a year. It's about the foods you eat all the time, day in, day out. The goal is to reduce your long-term cumulative exposure. For Tim Spector, that food is tomatoes. So as we get into our shopping guide, maybe start thinking about what that food is for you. Section 5, your smart shopping guide. Okay, let's be real. For most of us, budget is a huge factor, and going 100% organic just isn't going to happen, and that's totally fine. The goal here is not perfection. It's about being strategic. So let's get into a really practical guide for making smart choices that work for you. Okay, so on the left, you see some foods where choosing organic can make a real difference. Oats, for instance, are often sprayed with a weed killer called glyphosate right before harvest to dry them out, so a lot of it can end up in the final product. Things like strawberries and pears have really thin skins, so they tend to soak up more chemicals. But on the right, you have the safer bets for conventional. Think about it. Avocados, onions, mangoes, they all have these thick protective peels that we throw away, leaving the part we eat much cleaner. And here is maybe the best budget tip of all. Do not sleep on the frozen and canned food aisles. Seriously. The price difference between conventional and organic is often way smaller there. You can get a huge bag of frozen organic berries for less than a tiny fresh container, and canned organic beans or tomatoes are an amazing, affordable way to make a smart swap. And finally, no matter what you end up buying, there are a few simple things you can always do at home. First, wash your produce in water with a little bit of baking soda. Studies show it removes way more residue than just water. Second, peel the skin when you can, like on apples or cucumbers. And third, and this is the most important one, just prioritize. Put your focus and your money on swapping out the foods that you and your family eat most often. So, at the end of the day, the takeaway isn't that you have to buy everything organic starting tomorrow. It's about being an informed shopper. The evidence is pretty clear that there are real, measurable differences. So the final question is really just for you. Thinking about your own habits and your own budget, what's just one small, simple organic swap that you could make? Thanks for joining us.
Click the subscribe button to stay updated with VitalSpan Labs.